There's about 30 people already here. Yeah, drop a message. Let me know how the video and the audio looks. I've got a slightly new setup today, so, hopefully everything runs smoothly. Fingers crossed. But thank you all for joining me. And if you're new here, my name is Darren Yu. I'm an artist, a watercolor artist over in Melbourne, Victoria. And basically, I run these workshops teaching you how to learn watercolors in the most efficient way. So it took me pretty long time, a bunch of years really to nail a process, but nowadays it's pretty easy. If I look at any reference photo, I can convert that into a painting. And my style of painting is pretty loose, so I'll just show you some examples of previous workshops and bits and pieces that I've run in the past, just so that you can get a gauge of my style. Especially if you're new here. And yeah, let me know down in the chats as well if whereabouts you're watching from as well. Would be good to see just whereabouts you're from and maybe what you're looking to get out of today's session. So if there's a particular subject, particular topic you'd want me to cover, I'm happy to go through, hopefully talk about that at the same time that I'm painting. So yeah, these are some of my paintings. This was actually from a previous workshop, a little beach scene that we did in the past. I quite like that one. Some boat scenes. What else do we have here? We've got some kind of nature scenes as well. And good to see. We've got Pamela in the chat. Yvette, how you doing? Yvette, Tina. Quite a few over on YouTube. So yeah, good to see you all. There's nearly about 50 people watching, but I think more people will start joining as time goes on. But yeah, here's a few more, and these two are kind of relevant for today's because they're going to be trees that we're going to be painting, and yeah, just my technique in painting those trees. I'm going to show you what I do, but there's really a bit of everything in today's workshop because we're going to do a house portrait, so it's really like a simplified cottage, like a thatched cottage in the background. We're going to have some trees. We're going to have a bit of a road. I'm going to change the scene a little bit as well, just to make the shadows look more in depth and sharp on the ground. And I'll show you a little example because I did a sketch of this actually before today. But yeah, I thought I'd go through some of these previous paintings I've done to give you a bit of a preview of what to expect for today. Some of these take a little bit longer than others, but roughly most of these paintings take about 1 hour or so. I do a bit of line and wash work as well, so you can see here this takes a little bit more time to, if the camera's focusing in, to sort of draw in some of these details. But yeah, I tend to paint things pretty quickly, and surprises people when I tell them I'm actually quite an impatient sort of painter. So I've found a way to just get it done quickly, but still manage to, get in a reasonable impression of what you see. And I think, especially if you're painting from a reference photo, I think the expectation is that it resembles that reference photo in some way at least. Sometimes it doesn't meet up with those expectations, and sometimes sometimes it does. But if you follow my process today and hang around through to the end, you'll see that you'll be quite surprised at what you end up with. And it's not really until the end of the watercolor painting, when you put in all the dark colors, so see underneath here, this roof, the dark colors, the figures, little details, that you actually see the painting come to life. So a lot of people tend to give up around the middle of the painting, and they think it doesn't look anything like the reference, and they kind of give up. But don't do that. Just make sure you hang around to the end, and yeah, your mind can only put all the pieces together once you've got the the lights, the mid values, and the darkest values in there. So yeah, so anyway, these are just some of the paintings that I've done. And in fact, I've been a little busy on another channel. I run a couple of YouTube channels, and I've been a bit busy with another channel lately. So it's kind of been a while since I've painted. So it'll be interesting today to see if I'm a little rusty. But I did do a couple sketches last night. It took about 5 minutes each, and like I said, once you have a process down packed, you'll have a much easier time knowing what comes next. So if you're wondering where the reference photo is, there's probably some of you wondering. If you're on Facebook, go check the discussions tab on the actual events. I've posted the thing in there. Also, if you look at the video description, I've popped in the the reference link in the video description as well. So yeah, for those of you on YouTube. So anyway, yeah, a lot of these really were painted live. So I did these, that one I didn't do live, I think, but most of these, like that one, I'm not sure, most of the ones I showed you before were all done live. And yeah, I'm just having a look to see. Yvette says not hearing you on YouTube. I think, yeah, maybe your audio isn't turned on. A few others from YouTube saying that that the audio sounds good. Facebook looks like it sounds good. Okay, so right, I'm going to go through just a quick little preview of the materials I'm using today, because I know some of you asked about that. I did send an email out before. Now, the paper I'm using is the same paper that you see here. It's just medium textured watercolor paper, or what you'd call cold press watercolor paper. So it's basically, it's got some texture to it. It's got a little bit of texture to it, and it allows you to get in these nice soft washes as well as some detail. But the soft washes are really important when you're looking at watercolors, especially painting large areas. So yeah, I tend to go with some paper with a bit of texture. It's 100% cotton paper as well. I've also got myself a bunch of colors here, and I'll put some recommendations for colors in the video description, but you don't have to have all of these, okay? As long as you've got a yellow, I've got like a Hunza yellow here, and I've got a yellow ochre. Yeah, yellow ochre will do. Yellow ochre, an ultramarine blue, and, you know, some kind of red. I think I've got this is a pyrrole red here. If you've got a brown, that's a good bonus, because given we've got a lot of trees and stuff like that as well, the trunks of the trees, it's good to have a brown in there. So, but basically, if you've got your three primary colors, you can get by, plus maybe like an earth and color. Okay, I do have a few in here, but I don't use all of them. You know, I barely use some of them, in fact. So, yep. Righto. Perspective. So Monica's saying perspective topic would be great. Yeah, we'll cover perspective a bit today when we're doing the drawing. So give you a bit of rundown on that. If you're on Facebook as well and you're new here or just watching along, drop a comment down in the chats. Let me know where you're watching from, and yeah, just let me know maybe something you'd like me to cover. Give me a bit of a heads up on certain topics you're struggling on, and I can try to focus on that while we're running through today's workshop. So I'm kind of speaking at the same time that I'm painting, so make it a lot easier for you, because yeah, essentially how this works, just ask me any questions as I'm painting, and I'll check the chats periodically and go through your questions. But yeah, these are, like I said, just some examples of stuff that I painted. I actually quite like this one. It's one of my favorites, like an Australian landscape, painted a while back. Okay, but yeah, I'm going to put these away, and I think we're going to get started because we've got most people here already. So let's just put this stack of 1,000,000 paintings away. Lots of these. I just scroll away. Used to sell. Okay, so paintbrushes. So I've got a bunch of these paintbrushes here. Today I reckon I'm only going to use 3 paintbrushes. Now, watercolor mop brushes are real important. So this is basically a brush with a large belly, and it's a very soft brush, and essentially it picks up a lot of paint, so that when you are painting an area, you don't have to continually go back and mix, and it becomes quite frustrating when you have to do that all the time. So if you can pick up a lot of paint in one go, you save yourself a ton of hassle. So that one, essential. Then what you'd want is a couple of these brushes. So just like some round brushes. These are synthetic round brushes that have a sharp point. They don't carry much water, but they're fantastic when you're painting trees and smaller objects. Really crucial. So make sure you have a couple of these with you. You know, at minimum, have a larger brush that can pick up a lot of water, and a smaller brush with a point. You know, in fact, a lot of these paintings I do, you know, I don't even use more than 2 or 3 brushes. So last night, what I did was, before I went to bed, I did a couple of really quick sketches. These took about 5 minutes each to do. And what I was trying to do is really just give myself a warm up and also to play around with the shadows, because in the reference photo, one thing I noticed is that the shadows are kind of like it's an overcast day, light coming from above kind of thing, but it's not really so evident where the light is. Well, it's not a dramatic sort of light effect, and I wanted to change that around a little bit, and I experimented around, and as you can see in this top version here, I put in, let me bring it up a little bit closer. You can see I've made the light sort of come in from the right hand side, which might also cast some shadows on the roof of this cottage, and you've got a shadow to the left hand side, shadows running across the left side of the page. I think this makes for a more interesting looking composition, but I want to keep it a bit more low key, not too sharp as I usually do, so I have some soft shadows here in the ground. So a lot of these shadows that you see in the rooftop and in the ground, some of these will have to be done wet into wet, so we'll have to wait until the paper is slightly dried but still damp, and then we can go in and do those shadows at the same time. So I'll show you how to do that. Yeah, this was another experiment that I ran just with a more subdued light effect. In fact, I probably should have made that cottage a bit darker as well, but I think this one looks a bit more effective. Let me know what you guys think, but I think this one I preferred. And sometimes when when you're painting, it's always pays off a great deal if you do a couple of sketches, because often people wait until they have their paper, they tape everything all ready to go, and actually they don't have much of a plan on how to proceed. So even though I've got a 3-step process that I follow every time, sometimes I think to myself, these reference photos, they can be hit and miss. You can find references that look good in one way, but then the shadows don't look good, or the angles of the people, or angles of the scene or the perspective looks a bit off. So I like to change things around a little bit. You have that artistic license. So let's get cracking, and we've got Jeanette from Alberta. Good to see Jeanette. What else have we got on Facebook? Yeah, drop me a message on Facebook. There's about 26 of you watching, so it will be good to hear from some of you, especially if you're new. But yeah, I've got my little sketch there on the side, and that will give me a rough guide on how to proceed. But let's grab out a pencil, and I've just got myself a basic mechanical pencil here. I'm going to change the camera's focus so that it doesn't move too much while I am painting. Okay, maybe zoom in a touch so that you guys can see better. Yeah, and like I said, at any point, if you want me to explain something, or if you've got questions, just go ahead and ask. Okay, so I'm actually going to lower the light a little bit, because at this point, it can be difficult to see the pencil marks. Righto, so let's see what we're going to do first. So let's put in a little line at the bottom. Move this microphone out of the way, touch. Let's put in a little line at the bottom where we've got just at the bottom of the house, so the cottage. So yeah, this is probably the most important part of the scene, because you want to separate out the scene basically from where the ground starts and where the building starts. So it's not in the middle of the reference. It's a little bit below the center, like about here, I would say. More than, it's about a third. I'd say it's almost about a third, or just slightly a third, slightly more than a third. So I'm going to draw a line running across the scene like this. And this can be where the building starts and the road comes out the front here. So really important to get this one in right. And maybe I should draw in a bit darker so you guys can see. Okay. And think of this as a measuring stick that you're going to use to put everything else into context. So the house will go above this line. The road will go below this line. To the sides, we're going to have some shrubs and things. I'm going to, simplify this a fair bit. So you want to leave enough room on top so that the house fits in. If you draw this line too far up, if you drew the line up here, you're going to have this gigantic road, and the house, there's just not going to be enough room for the house. So first point of perspective, so I think Monica suggested this, is getting that line in right. And normally they call this a horizon line. This is a little bit tricky in the scene because it's quite close up, but yeah, I'm trying to simplify this in terms of, just that point where everything, at the bottom of the house. So let's get in the house, and we notice, with this house especially, I chose a scene because it's a little bit more simple. in terms of where everything is positioned. Okay, so it's really just smack bang in the center of the scene. I'm going to just draw in the side of it. So you've got like a kind of rectangular shape there. On top of the house, you've got we can start off the rooftop. Okay, so let's just get this in, rectangle, and then we've got the side there like that. Okay. Just re-jig this a little bit actually. Be around here. There. Okay, you've got this trapezoidal kind of shape there at the back. Coming down there to the side. Okay. When I'm drawing, I always try to look at them, look at everything as shapes rather than, like, oh, it's a house or whatever. I've actually made the house a little bit bigger. I want to emphasize it a touch, a little bit more. So yeah, but it's roughly, the same size. And you can see on top of the roof, there's like a little chimney there. I've not left much room there. It doesn't matter. Little chimney sideways like that. It's like a chimney there, and then we've got another chimney there in the back. So it's like a rectangle. Okay, and the 3D out a little bit by putting in the side of it like that. And this one I can get in the top of that chimney better, like this. Okay. And yep. If you can, let me know if you can see okay, because it is a bit light, the drawing. I'm going a bit light on with the drawing, but should be able to, make out the lines here. Yeah, I have drawn it a little bit further up than I should have, but no big deal. There's still enough room up there. On the side of the cottage, there is this kind of shade. What is it? This is a bit of a shade where the door is. So look like that. Yeah, and we've got some verticals coming down for the door or whatever behind. We've also got where the roof starts. We've got some windows. So let's just position on some windows here. One window, two windows, third window there. And then we've got another 3 windows. Some of these are hidden behind some of these shrubs. So 1, 2, and there's actually 1 in the center here. 3, just rectangles. All we're doing is just drawing these little rectangles in here. And there's another tree here that I'll also get in, quick little indication of that, like a shrub or something. And, I was so tempted to put in like a little window or something here. I don't even know if that makes sense, but I'm going to put in a window there, okay, on the side of that building. Just make sure I get in a bit of the wall here as well. So you want this side to look a bit like a rectangle, like this. And then the left side is, how would you put it? It's almost like a triangle with a flattened edge, flattened top like that. Okay. Drawing is so crucial. I think it's even more crucial than painting sometimes, in terms of just getting some sketches or practice sketches in drawing, because that's the foundation of everything, really. Okay. So what do you think? That kind of looks like a cottage to me anyway. There's on the side, you see all these trees and stuff coming in there. We don't need to worry about that too much. Oh, you know what? I've forgotten. There's a little side, is it, building there. I'll just put that in. It's, as you see, triangle. And then it comes down like a side part, the cottage. Yeah. Looks like a really nice place. Nice place to relax in. And yeah, Yvette saying need practice with perspective. Yeah, it's a lot of the best practice you get with perspective, Yvette, is through your drawing. Really makes things easier. Just a few minute sketches. I'm going to quickly check the chats. How are you all going with the sketch? Monica's asking what size paper you use. So this paper I'm using is hang on, that's a good question. I can't remember. Water sheet. So Yeah, because we've got a lot of Americans out there, it's 10.5 inches by 7.5 inches, and then by in centimeters, 28 centimeters by 19 centimeters. So yeah, I find this is probably the smallest that I work, just so that I can have a bit of freedom with my brush strokes. You know, if you paint too small, me anyway, because I'm a bit haphazard sometimes, I'll just plonk in a brush stroke and too much. So I like to have a bit of movement. Yeah, just like to have a bit of movement and freedom with my brush strokes and paint a bit larger. So, but yeah, this is probably the smallest I go. Otherwise, usually I just paint on a quarter sheet. Okay, so we've got in the house, which is probably the most tricky part of this whole scene. Now, something I've noticed on the left as well, that there is some kind of building coming in there. You see that? It's like something there that I'll just quickly indicate. And there's a window. Computer is just blocking that reference, so I'll just make this up. Little window there, so it doesn't have to be much, just a house of some sort, doesn't matter. I'll just paint that in later. And we have the road. So let's get in this road. Comes in here, and we've got, yeah, sort of ends off about here, and we've got this other bit that comes in there and then starts to there, ends off around here. Yeah, there. A bit of a road, good. And now we've got to figure out what we want to do with all these shrubs and things. So I'm just gonna look. This is just quick indication. A lot of this stuff we're going to get in with the actual paints itself. So there's a gate here. So let's get in some of these gates. There's a few verticals running through. So just draw a line running up to the side there, and then some vertical lines running down. Just an indication of a gate. As you can see, all these ferns and bits and pieces are getting are just overgrown into the gate. And this is honestly going to be a bit of a nightmare to paint. I'm still figuring out how I'm going to exactly do it, but we're going to make it simple. All these trees and stuff. Yeah, we're just going to simplify this. I'm not going to try to get too much in for today. We've got is this a rail or something? Looks like some kind of rail. Yeah, you're running through there. Let me just get that in. But probably one of the most important things is I've forgotten is these trees. So we got trees running over in the back. Okay, there. And the trees, you might think, maybe just like an afterthought, but they are really important for actually bringing out the cottage, because the tree will add some darkness around. We do need some darkness in order to bring out the light. Okay, and that's a really, it's like an optical illusion. Really like an optical illusion where you have, you can only really see the lighter sections by putting in the darker sections in there. So just remember that. Just trying to like rejig this side like that a bit. Even these shrubs and things will help to frame the cottage. Okay. All kinds of stuff. But these trees on the side, look, we've got some running up. They're actually so small in the reference photo. So I'm just going to increase the width of these trunks and hold the pencil at the end. This is a really important tip to remember. If you hold the pencil at the end, you can draw very quickly and you can get branches. Happens when I talk too much, lose my voice. I've got the screen to the left, so it might look a bit funny because I'm looking to the left, but the camera's here to the right. But I've also got a screen here to the right. But I'm always checking what's happening to the left because I've got people in the chats. So I am here. Let's get in more trees here. Okay, behind the cottage, and emphasizing them probably a bit more than what I see in the reference. Making them a bit closer. What else do we have? We've got these trees, these really large ones that come up here. So you don't have to make them look exactly like the reference. That's the great thing about trees. That's why I love drawing trees, because you just have so much freedom in terms of how they look. Okay, and change make that branch go over to the right, to the left, doesn't matter. You know, they grow in all different ways, but always remember they start off with the larger sort of trunk, generally speaking, and then they branch off into smaller branches. They often go off into these Y looking shapes. I repeat that Y looking shape, and then I try to make them look a bit more erratic as well. Like in some of them, you see these branches or trunks often grow off on tangents, not always straight. You know, depending on the conditions as well where you're living. Some trees will grow in the direction that that best suits them. So you can't have them looking all too perfect. And if you make them all in the same direction, all the branches go in the same direction, they start looking a bit too put together and artificial. So yeah, something like this. Like I said, this is just a quick sketch, and you know, I might do this where I'll make sure that a couple of these trees that I draw in have a thicker trunk, just so that when I end up going in later with the watercolor brush, I don't miss out on this tree, because yeah, I start getting a bit excited, as you can see, and suddenly we've got 1,000,001 trees in here. So I think that's pretty much about it. Now, I was contemplating whether to do this or not, but I had thought of putting a car or something in there, or maybe a couple of people walking around. So we can do this, and it's really up to you if you want to do this, okay, guys? I'm going to put in a person here, head, like that, and legs, maybe just a triangle like that, just for the legs there. Okay. There we go. We got a person. Just gives it a bit of life, gives the scene a bit of life. You know, I was contemplating whether to put in a car or something like that, but I put in cars in almost every single one of my street scenes. So I think I'm gonna try to hold off on this one. I'm gonna get too excited with this, and these figures are also going to help maybe get some shadows in. Okay, maybe it could be a story. Maybe these two people, you know, waiting to receive a visitor or something like that. You know, tells a bit of a story. And the way that I've put the people in as well, I've put them roughly in the 1/3 marks. So if you imagine lines running down the page, separating the scene into thirds, I've tried to put them in these marks here, because that's, you know, it's a compositional technique. You don't have to follow this. In fact, a lot of great paintings don't follow this rule, but it does help to distribute areas of focus a bit more evenly. Say if I put the figure here, it would just could look a little bit unbalanced unless I put some figures here. So you always have to weigh things up. If you've got someone in the front, and that's if they've got something here taking up a lot of attention, you kind of need a way to draw the attention into the scene or to balance it out on the other side, unless you, of course, want to focus on that side of the scene for whatever reason. Yeah, let me know if I'm making any sense. I sometimes just yap on and get carried away, and I don't actually know whether I'm saying anything that makes sense to you guys or not. But yeah, do leave a message. Do leave some messages in the chats. It does give me great indication, good indication, knowing whether I'm on the right track or not. And do me a big favor, if you're enjoying the video, click the like button as well, and consider sharing it with a friend, because it's pretty much the only way now that I get videos recommended out to people on either YouTube or on Facebook. So yeah, it'd be a great favor if you could do that at some stage, if you want to, if you're getting value out of this. So this is the scene. We're done with the drawing. I think I've spent too much time on the drawing already, but hopefully some of that explanation was useful for you guys. Now, let's go in and get in some colors. So the first thing that I want to do is put in the colors of this cottage, and being very careful to leave the white of the paper, okay, for the sides of the cottage, okay? So I want to leave that white just to indicate that the light source is coming in from the right-hand side, hitting the right side of the building and leaving a bit of a shadow on the left side. So that's the story I want to tell. And yeah, also get in some of these shadows coming across on the ground too. Okay, just got a bit of a bit of a bit of a plan there. MF Carlon says, will you be drawing in the ruts and reflections in the road? No, no. We'll just be leaving a lot of this stuff for the watercolors. I think it looks better if you at the end of the day, it is a painting. Sometimes if we're doing things like a line and wash drawing where you're using pen and the pen's going to show through, you might want to get in some of those little details, those ruts and stuff with a pen. But because almost all this pencil is not going to show through in the end, I'm not gonna bother with that. Okay, and if we look at the reflections on the road as well, we see really at the back there, the back of the road is a little bit lighter than the front of the road. Of course, you've got some lighter bits on the road, but yeah, in terms of the whole light pattern, I'm trying to change it a little bit so that the trees here on the right, because I saw an opportunity with these trees growing up like that we could get some nice, soft, longer shadows running across page as well. So I'm going to, just generally speaking, create a lot of a lighter region in the back and then slowly darken a little bit down the front. Okay, but keeping some of these lighter spots as well here and there. But yeah. Yvette says, I'm making lots of sense. That's good. Andy says, I'm making sense. Great. And good to know I'm not just blabbering on, because sometimes I'm not even conscious of exactly what I'm saying. I'm just talking about what's going through my head. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get in some color in the roof. Now, I did say if you have a bit of brown, okay, an earthen color, this is going to be so useful here. So I'm going to use some yellow ochre and a bit of brown, okay, which is, brown is basically burnt sienna. A bit of yellow ochre, and let's just drop this in first, okay, to the rooftop. So it's really quite a tricky thing to paint, and at times really I can just spend ages and use like another tool to scratch out paint as well from the side of this building. But let's put in a bit of this yellow to start off first, yellow ochre, okay? And there's really a few different values here in the rooftop. You've got yellows, you've got kind of brown, like other darker brown values. Oops, went into the sky there. It doesn't matter, because we're going to do the sky later, and I'll tell you why in a moment. Now, I've got kind of this paint that is yellow ochre is, generally speaking, a granulating paint. So when it dries, it leaves a kind of textured look, and I'm going to just use that kind of textured look to imply, you know, this thatch sort of effect. So you can go in, drop in some paint. Let's drop in some darker browns. So here, feather in, I've got some more of these, what do you call it? A bit of darker browns. Let's just feather some of this stuff in here. Okay. And this bit of this darker brown, you know, and you notice near the edges of the footage, like here, the roof, sorry, there, there's a bit of darkness. So I'm just dropping that in. And I'm doing all this while the paint is still wet, okay? And that way, it's going to look more softer, kind of look more like that thatched kind of effect, rather than, you know, it be really sharper details. And often when you put too many sharp details into one section, you can really just overdo it and draw too much attention. So guys, this is just a simplified thing. Sometimes what I'll do is I might go through with a like a credit card or something and just scratch out some bits and pieces, but I think for this scene should be okay. I do want to just make sure that the bottom part here does have some darks. It might look a bit too dark at the moment, but I'm hoping that this will feather in nicely, and fingers crossed, just melt in there. Okay, and when you're using, you know, one of the things I really recommend before getting a few good watercolor paints, you only need 3 watercolor paints, really, just your primaries. But you just want to make sure that you have some decent paper, because it makes things harder when you don't have decent paper to do this with this wet and wet effect. Okay, so it's a very slow sort of process, but you can see there I've got, you know, looks like we've got a bit of that effect, don't we? Right, and we're keeping it very light as well. In terms of the percentage of paints that I'm using here, it's about 10% paint and the rest of it is just water. Okay, because remember that the light is hitting the side of this roof, and we don't want to put too much paint in there because otherwise it's going to just destroy that light. Okay, but you know, check this out, just a bit of feathering. I'm looking at that reference photo and I'm looking at just the little bits of detail in the, and trying to follow this pattern of the, seems to be like kind of going in one direction. Okay, as it dries. Okay, putting a lot of work into this, and normally, you know, I would just get it over with and whatever, but I just want to show you this effect and how over time you can create textures and details by just facilitating this effect. You're not really painting, you're really just dropping in color at the right points and letting it do its thing. But it takes a lot of practice to do this. It takes a lot of practice and also a bit of an understanding of timing. If you do this too early, and depending on the paper that you're using as well, if you do this too early, it might just spread and cause a gigantic mess. So you kind of got to wait for it to dry a little bit. It took me like some years to get this, and patience as well. Because by nature, I don't think I'm a very patient person. I've had to learn to be patient. All right, so that's the roof, I think, done. That looks okay. Probably a lot more yellow than I like, a bit too yellow really, but doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah, if anything, I would have dulled that down a bit with a touch of white, but let's just go with this. Now, the side of this building, I'm going to put in some little bit of shadow color. So I'm picking up some ultramarine blue and I'm mixing this around with some of the brown. Let's just have a quick look at that. Now I want to keep it fairly light still, but I'm going to just put in this shadow effect there. Like, think about this as maybe like 10% paint still. Yeah. And this is just to get in sort of like this impression of shadow on the left side of the building. All right, it's sharper kind of shadow. That, all right. And I always find, now this is a trick with watercolors, people often let things dry and let the edges don't let the edges mix, but I like to let the edges sort of combine at times like this. And I can go in later and define the edges a touch. Okay, but let's just get that in. We've got a bit of that shadow there. I also have an opportunity to put in some of the windows, a bit of darkness in some of the windows, just to outline them first. So I've got a larger brush here, and I'm just going to mark in with a bit of, this is just a bit of, what's it, blue and brown and a touch of black mixed together. Oops, I've gone too far into the roof, doesn't matter. There, just to indicate the windows, the position of the windows. And when you hold the brush further down when you're doing this, you're able to get some more detail. And one thing I've forgotten, guys, is that I've forgotten to get in this, see this little thatched area here? Always forget these little bits sometimes, but that's no problem. Let's just get that in quickly. Bit of brown, bit of yellow. Not gonna fuss around too much with it. Okay. Ideally, this should take, today's session should take us about an hour to do. Okay, because sometimes I do talk a fair bit as well. It does take a bit longer when I'm explaining things, but ideally it should take you about an hour to run through this entire thing from start to finish. yeah, there's a bit of funniness happening up there with the dark got a color spreading a bit too much, so I can just feather off. Let's just feather off a bit of that. Yeah, it's not a deal breaker. But yeah, at this point, I'm just using a smaller brush to try to indicate these details of the windows. We'll go in and we'll actually add in more details later, but I think this is just a good time, you know, put some of these in. Hopefully get a bit of blending as well. Okay, like that. We got here, this is like the door frame, whatever. Some verticals running down like that behind these figures. Actually, this is a great opportunity to just maybe bring out these figures by creating a touch of darkness behind them like that. There we are. Cut around the bodies a little bit like that. Yeah, I mean, there we go. That's something there. Good. I'll actually probably get in some shadow, a bit more shadow for some of these bits and pieces afterwards. What else do we have? Okay. Right. More blue. Just mixed in. I'm just mixing up a bit of blue again. That same kind of shadowy color there to the left. I'm thinking maybe we should put a bit under here. Yep. That just underneath that rooftop. Bit here. I'm gonna see, this is a lot of stuff. I'm making some of this stuff up because it's not really in the reference, right? Kind of just making up some of this shadow, but it kind of makes sense. Light coming in there, maybe it's casting a shadow for this bit of the building. You might get a bit of shadow underneath the windows as well, like to the left of the window and underneath like this. Same color, like that. Okay, there we are. Good. Now, remember, at this point, we are just getting in. We are just getting in some of the light values, and of course, where we see an opportunity, pop in a window here or there. Okay, but I'm not by any means trying to get in a huge amount of detail. Okay, and see how I'm painting as well. I'm really just touching onto the paper and not spending too much time drawing in or painting in a particular shape. And let's put in a bit of color. Let's have a look. What else can we do? Maybe let's put in some color for the ground and the trees around the side. So a bit of green, a bit of green, and I'm gonna just feather some of this into the side with the mop brush. Little mop brush here. There. Okay. And go around some of these to gate, things like that. There. Let's have a look. We've got some more kind of greenish trees, shrubs and stuff running on the right-hand side here. Okay. And let's just simplify that down there. Put in a bit of yellow as well. So it's good to have, you know, mix your own greens and have different types of greens running in here, but I don't want to make it look too bright. Okay, so just a bit like this there. We've also actually got some shrubs and things growing on the front here as well of the building, and this actually helps to connect up a bit of the side of it. That, okay, and run around. I'm just cutting around some of these trunks so that I can leave them for later. Okay, but just a general, sort of greenish color there. And I'm not using too much paint as well, just a light wash. Okay, leaving some of the white for this indication of the fence. Okay. Drop some of this in here. Good. There. And we've got some bits of shrubs and that going onto the road. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is just mimic this color on the left side of the building. And I'm going to have to fix this cottage up a touch as well. I'm going to just soften that out later. Maybe add some additional color to the chimney as well. So, bit of blue mixed with some brown. Because I want to make the front a little bit cooler. So, out at the back, bit of lighter color like that. Okay. There. And we're just going to merge this down the page. More blue. A bit more blue and a bit of brown just to dull it down a bit so it doesn't look completely blue. Of course, here on the right hand side as well, it is a little bit lighter with some of these lighter values. So we can just get in the lighter values first, just with a few little brush strokes like this. And then with some darker paint, go in and just fill in the other sections. I think it's pretty important to have some darker values in the front of your scene, because it helps to draw the eye through the painting. Just gives that impression of depth. So remember, this is just the first wash. We're not putting really any detail or anything in. We're just adding color. Just adding light color. And watercolors are built up through layers of detail. And that's why, you know, at this point, a lot of people just get really frustrated and they just think it looks like a mess. Just looks like a mess, but got to be patient with it. A little trick I do sometimes is I will lift up some paint. So you can lift up with a bit of the dry brush, and you can lift off a little bit of light there. You can lift off a little bit of light in the back. I think the light in the back is pretty good though. It's preserved quite well. If anything, I just need to still darken a touch down the front in areas. When you're painting wet to wet, sometimes this is just what happens. It will run together and you lose some of those darks. So yeah, best time to do it, of course, is just, you know, right now where everything is still wet. Find a way to connect up these shapes together. And yeah, find a way to connect up all these colors and shapes. Really important. Let's put a bit of, the chimneys are, I'll pop in a bit of red up there, the chimneys, and it might surprise some of you, but I'm actually partially colorblind. So in a way that has made me really reduce the palette, number of colors on my palette that I use, and focus a lot more on values, which basically is just anything, whether something is light or dark. I think that's probably the most important thing to make a scene look realistic. Okay, let's drop in a bit of this. I mean, it's just like a warmer color, yeah? Let's drop in a bit of this warmer color. Top there. Okay. And because it's dried, you see, it doesn't run, which is a good bonus, right? Leaving a bit of that yellow on the right-hand side, because I want to indicate some warm light, okay? Now keep an eye, remember this section here at the front, because we're going to do something in a moment. We're going to put in some shadows, some soft shadows through there. But before we do that, I want to work on some of this stuff here in the background. Now, the sky, what we really want to work on. But I just need to get in a bit of green for this tree first. Let's just do this. A little bit of green for that top of that tree, okay? I'll probably have to redo that in a bit, but got a bit of a croaky voice today. Okay. Just having a look at the chats. Let me know how you're going. Yeah, let me know how you're going. We've got about nearly 70 people watching, which is great. Great little turnout for today. We're about halfway through the painting. So, yeah, make sure you hang around because I'm going to show you how to just get in all those little details and bits afterwards. And I will get some cerulean blue. Let's mix up some cerulean blue. I might be able to do this actually with just the mop brush. If you don't have cerulean blue, just mix up some ultramarine blue and paint very light. Okay, I'm going to drop some of this cerulean blue around the chimney. Now let's cut around it and the roof. Very careful here. This. You only get one chance to do this. Right. This, if you be very careful, yeah, you can get in the nice little shape of the cottage. Come on, Darren. Let's do this. Like that. See a bit of the sky peeking through there. On the left side as well of the roof. Just blue. Because the blue is slightly darker than the rooftop, it helps the roof to pop through a bit more. See? A little bit, yeah? You can tell it just looks like it comes through a bit better. That makes sense. So now I can relax a little bit and let's just, cut around these trees. A bit of that roof here. In fact, this roof here is actually a bit darker. I've not put this one in. Forgotten to get this other rooftop there. I'll do it afterwards because if I do it now, it's just going to melt in and cause a bit of a mess. There, more of this blue. And you've got a lot of this blue that just permeates through the top of the scene like that. So, look, for the most part, you can just color that in. Keep it very light. I mean, this is probably about 10-15% paint. Okay, keep it very light. And just around where you're doing the rooftop, slow things down and take your time there. Some things you can paint quickly. In fact, a lot of things in this scene you can paint quickly, but some things you really just got to slow down and make sure you do it right. So where we got here? Just again, I'm blending some of this on. I'm connecting up. See where some of this green starts, and then the blue. Now, I would have preferred if it was actually slightly wet still, but it's not. Doesn't matter. Kind of waited a bit too long. Now, this stuff on the ground, it might have dried, but it doesn't matter because we can also bring it back with a spray bottle, or you can repaint over the top of it with a bit of water if you don't have a spray bottle. That's just something I do to re-wet the section sometimes. And again, I've missed out a little portion here of this building to the left. Maybe a bit of yellowish color. Any type of warm color there should do you well. Let's just paint that in. One go. Done. Easy. Easy. Get in some more of the details later. Right. So we should have basically a nice little... everything should be colored, except for obviously the bits and pieces of white there that you don't want to get in. But for the most part, you should have most of this um, painted in with a very light wash of color in most areas. So just get that roof in there that I've forgotten to get in before. There, like that. Good. Okay, so we can see there's a nice light pattern. We can see the plan of what we want to do, but we want to just emphasize some of this light better and bring out contrasts in this scene. So the first thing I will do, I think, is yeah, I'm going to give this area a little bit of a spray down at the base. Now, if you don't have a spray bottle, that's okay. What you can do is just actually re-wet this area with a bit of, pick up some clean water and a large brush and just quickly re-wet it. Okay, but what I'm going to do is just keep that alive and let the water sink in a touch. I don't want to go in straight away. But we're going to do these trees. Now we've got brown, dark brown, a bit of black maybe. Now it looks like it's, you know, maybe winter or something like that. So there's no leaves, thankfully, that we need to really paint in. Yeah, unfortunately this area is not quite dried yet. Let me just touch that bit of paper. It's not quite dried yet, so I might leave that and come back to it in just a moment. But for the meanwhile, what we can do is maybe put in some indications of some shrubs and stuff here. So I'm going to pick up some darker green and let's just feather some of this stuff here. So here you can see like the side of this road. There's actually a bit of, it's really dark. It's almost like black, but I'm not going to put in, like, I'm just adding in a bit of black mixed in with green and just, see, just feathering that a bit into the side like that. Okay. This is just going to buy me some time before I go into the trees because I don't want to go into them just yet because I think that will make things a bit messy, okay? Because that area of the sky is still wet. And that goes back to that concept of timing in watercolors because there's a certain time to do things. And if you try to get in a very sharp looking shape in there, especially while the sky hasn't dried yet, it's not going to do that. It's going to spread and create a mess like what we did here. So sometimes you want a mess and you want it to go everywhere. Sometimes you want nice and crisp lines. So that really depends on the timing when you go in and paint certain things. So just always keep that in mind. And a lot of the time, you know, a lot of this, the theory will make sense in your head, but it's going to be it can be difficult to execute and carry it out. But as you practice and practice, you know, you end up catching up to it. So you understand the concept behind it, what you're doing. You know, look, some more green and darker bits. I'm just feathering in here. Okay. And I also use some gouache later. It's a bit of lighter gouache, which is a kind of like an opaque watercolor. Okay. Notice I'm just looking. I'm not really painting anything in particular here. I'm just dropping in darker paint where I see there's an opportunity. Maybe I see a bit of a difference here. So this part here is darker compared to the stuff in the front. So I'm going to use that as an opportunity to just paint in some darkness in some parts here. You know, even here, look at that. That's really dark. You know, I'd almost forgotten about this, but some stuff here, just scumbling the brush around without much thought, really. But we do have to make sure that we've got in some darkness as well. So some contrasts, really important. They bring out the lights in here. So probably just feather that in. Yeah, you know, I'm just using a little fan brush, but you can use a normal round brush for this. It just takes a bit longer. Okay, good. So we're building detail in this this sort of area. Just spray this quickly to soften off some of this stuff. This, you know, I love using a spray bottle. It just buys me a little bit of time to then continue working on an area that would otherwise dry and leave sharper marks. Okay, good. Now we kind of touched on this point here, and this is so important because I want to put in some dark shadows across here, but for us to do that first, we need to work on these trees. So fingers crossed, I think that's, started to dry off. If not, doesn't matter. I just want to in hindsight, I probably would have liked to put in maybe some warmer colors, warmer yellows on the right hand side of the tree. But that's okay. There, let's just get in some of these branches. See how they're just going up. And I'm doing this in a way just to quickly, imply these trees, okay? I don't want to spend too much time at all here. But of course, if you want more detailed branches, take as long as you'd like. Just trying to speed things up for the sake of this demonstration. I'm just using a little round brush, okay? The same round brush as well throughout the entire scene. And let's get these ones in the back. The great thing about these smaller round brushes is that they, as you can see, the amount of detail that you can get in just using the tip of the brush is amazing. Feather it around, and you'll notice some parts maybe become a little bit softer, but for the most part, they do look kind of sharp against the sky. Now, this part here is important. I need to get in this tree that's just kind of touching onto the cottage, but fortunately, that area has not completely dried yet, so it's a bit fuzzy, but still okay. I can even put in another tree here, just like a indication of a second tree or something there, like that. You do notice also with this scene that there are branches going over to the left of the scene. On the rooftop, we do have some branches as well, some shadows of branches. I'm going to spray this part of the rooftop like that. Bit of water, and let's drop in a quick indication of some of these branches. Now, the reason why I sprayed it's just so that this paint spreads a little bit more. Let's try this. Okay, this could go terribly. Oops. This. And just want to indicate some of these branches, maybe casting a shadow or something on the roof. Okay, you don't have to do this. For me, I thought, why not just experiment a little bit? And sometimes you can regret this, and sometimes you get pretty happy with the results. So anyway, that was my little attempt. Unfortunately, I went a bit too overboard on the right-hand side, so there is some water coming through the side of the building. Doesn't matter. We'll finish that all off later on. And on the ground, I'm going to pick up some brown and a bit of blue together. Just a dark color for this shadow. And where we have these trees running across, I am going to just get in some shadow. So that this area has dried off a little bit. I'll just respray it. There. This shadow there coming across like that. And maybe another tree out here as well that's just out of the scene. Of course, so they have branches and things that sort of run through well. And I want this to kind of be these more sort of subtle shadows, so not too sharp across the ground. I like how there's this nice soft effect in this scene, so I want to preserve that. Lost some of these darks here on the edge of this area as well. So I'll just feather in a bit there. Good. Okay. And around here. Yeah. We've got some shadows on the ground. We've got some shadows on the roof. Yeah. Do with these people. Maybe put the legs in like this. Just a quick little indication of the legs going downwards. That. Yep. And a bit of shadow running to the left as well. Left of those people. Shadow here and the legs. I just, I tend to make the legs pretty dark and then connect the shadow onto the legs at the same time. Like that. Okay. Oops. Another thing you can do. Where is it? Put a. Hang on. Little pocket knife. And I will use this to sort of scratch out some details at times. So, like you see this some shrubs here that are lighter in color. I will just do this kind of thing and scratch out a bit of something there, maybe a few details there, maybe some verticals. What have we got here? Maybe some bits of grass or something here as well. Some verticals here. And it only works while the paint is like starting to dry. You just got to wait around a little bit until it's started to dry. But yeah, this adds a touch of texture, and can even use it on the rooftop. But I'm not going to bother really. Just try to add some extra little bit of detail, and also remove perhaps a bit of paint on the right side of some of these branches. Okay. Quick little thing like that. So we're almost done. Really, we just right now need to work on getting in all the really dark bits at the end. And once we're there, it should look a lot more detailed, and things should start to pop out. So, but at the moment, you should be able to see, generally speaking, we've got a good amount of detail. You can see that it's starting to really come together. But there are a few things that I want to just slowly fix up. But got a hairdryer from time to time just to speed up this drying process, especially while doing these live workshops. So I'll give this a little dry, and let me know if you have any questions. Let me know. right, so we are near the end. Now make sure you hang around right to the end because I'm going to now show you. Oops. Oops, I just thought the stream kind of got cut off for a moment, but I think we're okay. Okay, yeah, so like I was saying, just make sure you hang around right to the end because I'm going to show you how to just get in some of that light back, some of these really dark details as well. And I'm also going to go through, a little presentation at the end as well for a course that I have. Andy, there's a question from Andy. What was that tool you used to etch in some lines, etc.? It was just a little pocket knife. So if you've got something sharp that has an edge that you could just sort of scrape away, a credit card is a good thing as well. If you've got an old credit card, just cut off a side of it and just use that. Yeah, works perfectly, and it brings back a little bit of, it scratches off a bit of paint. Because when you're dealing with watercolors, it's very difficult to bring back the light sections. I find that works well. All right, let's do this. So, small brush. I'm going to use a small brush, small round brush, and lots of dark colors. Okay. Blue and brown. More brown here. Now there are just some bits and pieces I wasn't so happy with in terms of like maybe some of these trees here in the back. See, they're not sharp enough, but now that everything's dried, see, now you can go back and pick out these little details. You can just maybe see some trees that are coming forwards, like in the foreground here. You can have some that just come behind this roof in the back end like that. Well, okay. And I find the combination of sharp and soft, soft kind of lines really helps to make things look more interesting. And it's having this variety of textures and shapes, I think, that make a painting look better. I'm going to just bring out that chimney a little bit more, maybe. Big deal. Okay. Let's have a look. Some more of this work on the trees. This is just basically finishing touches and dark bits, really, to add on contrast. But I don't want to eliminate all those amazing soft spots in parts where you've got just nice softness coming through it. So I'm leaving that. But notice how it's just giving it a little bit more detail. Okay. Now I can spend a long time doing this, but you guys get the gist of what I'm doing, I think. There's a time that, there's just at the time where you really got to, take your time and slowly put in these little branches and stuff. And there's other times that you can just get by and worry about the big picture, like the ground and all this stuff. Okay. There's some, I don't know, some darker spots in here. Actually, in between these gates, see, these gates are actually kind of darker. Let's just put in these gates there. They're like, I don't know, like the spaces in between the gates actually. So to just simplify things, I'm going to do this in a few goes, and this might be like, I might stuff it, but I don't we can't be bothered to spend too much time on this. You know, that's going to be a gate. Okay, we'll have to just use our imagination a little bit there. But I will bring back some light on it afterwards. And Joe, thanks, Joe. Good to hear that you got your get some value out of this lesson. I don't think I've seen you before. This is the first one that you've watched. Have you come along to previous ones? And we've got Gabby Arts. How you going, Gabby? And you know, this is like the finishing touches, you know, part really. I mean, you can spend all day doing this, and but just pick out some spots that you might want to emphasize, like the windows. There, these windows are not dark enough, for instance, so I'm just gonna quickly simplify that and just get in some of those windows and some of these like bits and pieces behind there as well. There, okay. I had put in like a improvised window there as well. Didn't have to do that, but I just did. One thing that's bugging me a little bit is like I think that underneath this roof there should be some extra darkness, so I'm going to try to put in some kind of brownish color underneath there. That just to darken a touch, but I also soften it with some water, soften the edges. Just put a bit of water on the edges there. Okay. Some of that stuff as well just kind of looked a bit nice, so I'll soften that edge touch there. Really, at this point, you're looking at light kind of touches and not too much else, really. These two figures, kind of difficult to make them out right now, but for a little sketch, it's not bad. What I find can help is that if you just pick up some paint, say if I get some blue paint, put that in there, and then they start looking a bit more like they're wearing a shirt or something, like someone wearing a shirt. And, you know, maybe these two people here could have, yeah, again, maybe pick up some of this color, whatever that is, drop that in there as well. A couple of people there. Just gives them a bit of, yeah, makes them stand out a bit more. Oops. Blue. Okay. What else do we have in here? You know, like I said, all these little detailings, like with the trees and little bits and pieces, like you can go on forever and do this, but you know, just trying to simplify it for today. You do find there's parts, again, like the background here, maybe this tree needs to be just darkened against the sky. That, so I'll just add in some green up the top like that. Not too dark, but just something to darken it down a touch. That. Good. Always kind of looking at it from a distance and just seeing whether it makes sense or not. Good. What else do we have? That's pretty much about it, but I will show you a little thing that I do as well with some gouache, so a bit of white gouache. I'm gonna squeeze some of this out. Now this stuff is basically opaque. Oops, you know what? It's completely dried up. You know, I'll just use it straight from the tube. It's been a while since I've used this stuff, so it's definitely gonna be a bit of out a bit of that light. The shoulder of this person, that person here. You can do it on some of the trees. Sometimes what I'll do is that I'll mix up a bit of gouache with a bit of yellow. Okay. And this can help to just bring out some tiny little details here. If you want to mix up a bit of green and just drop that in to put in these little, tiny bits of shrubs and highlights of these leaves coming through there to the side. And that does help. A bit more detail. Okay. And there's some different marks or whatever. That's okay. Just on these little finishing, tiny little finishing touches, I guess. Maybe darken a bit of this chimney. Look, I'm really being nitpicky at the moment, so like, I think for the most part we've got a good little impression of this cottage scene. Yeah, afterwards, probably the one thing I'm going to do is just, again, just go through and maybe darken some of these bits underneath here. Underneath the sides of the cottage, just to get in some extra darkness in parts. Yeah, so let's take off the paper and let's see what we have for today. Yeah, and I'm also very interested to hear what you guys thought of today's workshop. We've got about 50 people watching, so it's been a while since I've run one of these. I think it's been about a month. So for a little sketch, I think it looks pretty decent. Not the most detailed, but again, the longer you spend on these things, the more detailed they end up looking. And yeah, let me know in the chats if you have questions as well. I'd love to hear from you. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip over to a little presentation, and this is basically a 70 course program that I have running it. So those of you who want to learn a little bit more from today, if you enjoyed today's workshop and you found it helpful. So I've been running this for, I don't know how long now, probably like a couple of years or longer. Bunch of students in there that are pretty happy, and I still keep in touch with all of them. So, a lot of times when you are painting, especially when I started, I don't know if you can relate to this, but just feeling frustrated because you can picture a beautiful painting you want to create. You're just not sure how to get to that end result. And that's something we've talked about today. So really, in a nutshell, that's composition and how to convert a reference photo into an impressionistic, simple painting that still resembles the reference photo. And you can see this is when I started painting, and kind of recently as in I think about one and a half years ago. So made a lot of progress in between, but it wasn't linear progress. There were times where I just stagnated for years and didn't really learn anything. So the big thing is just understanding that process of painting, because like anything that you're learning, any sort of skill that you're learning, there are certain steps that you can follow, and if you repeat them, you'll just get better. So, a big thing I've heard as well, and you might be able to relate to this, is just struggling to understand how to mix and layer your paint. So, a lot of times people just end up with a messy sort of puddle in the middle of their page, or all the colors just run together, and you just struggle to get a coherent looking painting. It's very frustrating. Here are a few other things that I've heard from students as well, and I can relate to when I started. So, getting bogged down in the details and struggling to loosen up your style. So, you can spend all day, thinking about, hey, that window doesn't look right, or, hey, that that color isn't exactly right, or that chimney looks a bit funny, you know. But if overall your painting makes sense as a whole, when you stand and you look back at it, I think that's a success, because when you focus too much on the little details, you just can get really frustrated, and the painting can look unbalanced as well. So I like to have a coherent style throughout the entire painting, and sort of find ways to blend things together. So sort of like you see here, blend a bit of the sky with some of the shrubs, and the green with the blue, and creating these nice soft gradations. Another point as well, seeing the same results and losing patience or confidence in painting. I see this with a lot of beginners, the frustration of them trying and practicing and just not getting anywhere. And, I think that's a big tragedy, just stopping painting because you're thinking that it's not for you, that you think you don't have any artistic talents, but knowing deep down that you want to produce some beautiful paintings. And, even if you don't sign up today, just know that you are able to do this with practice and just continuing on. But have to make sure that you're practicing in the right way, because a lot of times if you don't have someone giving you that right direction, you might be practicing, but it's like it's taking that. It's almost like you're learning tennis. You're just swinging the racket the wrong way every single time, and you're expecting something different to happen. So, having the patience and that will to practice is important, but also the knowing the right way as well to do things. So, now here's a couple of examples as well. Before, and I'm just painting stick figures back then, and then here of kind of like a recent painting. I've used a lot of wet and wet effects as well, and I often ask people to imagine if you could get to the stage where you understood those essential steps that you need to create a beautiful painting. And we went through some of those steps today: painting the lights, painting the darks, even in the drawing stage, how to carve out and compose a scene from scratch. We had a blank sheet of paper today, and we went through a bunch of steps. And, I think if you got through to the end, you should be pretty proud of yourself. So, in this 70 course program, I go through all these essential steps. There's it's basically 70 sub courses, and some of them are just on particular topics like values, like I was talking about today, on how to really imply a sense of light and dark in your paintings. And again, imagine if you could loosen up and drastically improve your paintings. That's a huge thing, because loosening up is not just a matter of painting really quickly with abandon. And loosening up takes time and confidence of understanding the process of painting, understanding what's going to happen when you pick up a certain proportion of paint, putting it onto the paper when the paper is slightly wet or it's dry. So it takes time, and then you can move faster, and then you can think to yourself, well, I can paint this house in 50 brush strokes, so I can paint it in 10. So it's a conscious decision to kind of minimize how many brush strokes you put on your page, and make every brush stroke count. So I go through that, and accepting and learning to work with your mistakes. I made a ton of mistakes today. Mate, a lot of things didn't go the right way that I intended in my painting, but, working with it and, getting through to the end. And often some of those mistakes can actually be a gift. So you make less of those, I think, as you understand, how the paint interacts with paper, how to mix your paints together, and when to do things. I talked a lot about timing today as well. So that's something that, you might be able to do one day, if you can imagine that as well. So watercolor techniques, I think, just something that people always struggle with. And I have a lot of exercises in this program as well. And this isn't the first time that I painted a tree. I mean, I've do little exercises in my sketchbook, and hundreds of these branches. So yeah, and imagine, I want you to picture, just imagine like you're confident, you feel confident, totally immersed every time you paint, excited to start a new painting. because you know the steps and the techniques to get to that finishing line. Often people look at a blank canvas and the frustration, and it just feels intimidating, especially if you're working on a large bit of paper as well. But if you understand the steps and what you're going to do, okay, well, I've got a reference photo. I need to look at where the horizon line is. I need to, starting painting, I've got to paint the light colors, or I've got to paint the warmer colors first so they don't mix into the cool colors. When you know some of these stages, it becomes very easy and very efficient as well. And imagine, of course, the final cherry on the cake, being proud to show your friends and family the beautiful paintings you create each week. I mean, that was something I think that I wanted to do a lot from the beginning, but I was too embarrassed to show people my paintings. I think they were just, I thought they were just terrible. And I was on the verge of giving up a couple of times. So, but trust me, you can get there. And, connecting to your creative side, I think a lot of us are, might be retired, or you might be in a job where you don't really get to express much of your creative side. And it's funny because I think as kids, we, when you're a child, it's very easy to express that creative side. You give kids crayons, you give them paints and stuff, and they just go for it. But as adults, I think we focus so much on the end goal that we lose that sense of joy in creating and the process of creating. And, you get a lot of, nowadays, there's a lot of talk of AI art, and it's amazing what it can do. But you put in a couple of words and then you get an output. But what you don't get from that is that you don't get that sense of accomplishment, of striving towards something, working towards something, that process of painting, which is so, just so enjoyable and so rewarding. So this is what a few other things that you'll learn if you enroll in my program today, and you can the link to my program is in the video description, so you can go ahead and check that out as well. If you're interested right now, just have a look at it. There's a link there that you can just sign up, so you're going to be able to paint with confidence, understand perspective and drawing, a little bit of what I've covered today, but in a lot more depth. Timing, talked a bit about this today. Knowing when to do things. Should you wait to paint those trees? Should you paint those trees now? Should you paint the roof first? Should you if you want to make some softer shadows or some sharper shadows, should you do it while the painting is still wet, or should you do it while it's completely dried? So important. Brush techniques and water control. Again, we talked a little bit about that today, probably less on brush techniques, but on how much water and paint we've got on the brush, how much water we have on the paper. And that's also very related to timing. Talked about values. So the secret component in making your paintings appear like they have a bit more depth and detail in them. Layering, so painting with only 2 layers. So today I think we've probably about 2 or 3 layers, I think. And the final layer being just some finishing touches. So that's really important as well, to make sure that you simplify things, choosing colors easy. I think a lot of paint manufacturing companies, they overdo. They've just got tons and tons of colors, where often you only need just a few to paint most things. So I usually only use about five colors. So I'll go through that as well in all of these sub-courses. Vision, something that I don't think is covered enough, and that's before you even put the brush onto the page, thinking about what do you want to achieve. Do you want to change the scene? Do you not like the reference photo? Kind of like what I did today. I didn't like the reference photo so much. I thought that the light was just too subtle. I wanted to make some more shadows there on the road, because I thought the road just looked a bit too kind of bare, and whether I put a car there or not, I thought that might be a bit too much. So I thought, hey, let's get some shadows running through there and see what happens. And I've created, like, maybe, it still looks like it's winter time in that scene, but maybe the sun's peeking through the clouds and you've just got a glimmer of sunshine coming through. So that's really important. So again, I was just sorry, not again, but these are what's what you get included, what's included in the program. So you got 70 courses in there, like I said, covering a range of topics: landscapes, streetscapes, line wash, portraits, flowers, and more. That's one of the projects that's included, a line and wash sort of lighthouse project. So you get unlimited instant access once you sign up. Hundreds of hours of paint-along demonstrations, and also 100+ replays of these previous live workshops. So I've run over 100 of these, and in some of them there's multiple projects. I think there was one where I did 4 different paintings it was during lockdown, so there was, I had a lot of time then. Learning at your own pace as well, so you can go back, replay bits, you can slow down the video as well if it's too fast, and you can, they're all step by step. So if you like the way that I presented today, the way I was just sort of going through today, you definitely like what's in this program because it's in the same format, but probably a bit more slowed down and more detailed. I have taken more time to go through those. So here are some projects that are included. So I wasn't able to include all of them, but just some projects here. Most of them take about 30 minutes to 1 hour max to complete these. Okay, I'm a pretty quick painter. I don't like to get bogged down in the details or even the colors all too much as well. And just have a general impression of a scene. And I love impressionistic paintings, and that was probably a big inspiration behind my style. I used to get a lot of bogged down in details. I used to do quite detailed pencil drawings when I was younger, but I don't have the patience for that anymore. I like, I don't know, I just like having this sort of quick way of painting. And here's some more projects that are included. Some of these are live. That's one of my favorites as well. Another cottage scene, like another quick one from the other day. Some more here. Portraiture as well. Do cover portraits. Let me go back to that one. I skipped over that one too quickly. So yeah, there's a bunch of portraiture projects as well in there. I don't do portraits all too much these days, but there are a few classes in there in this 70 course program. And flowers, all kinds of stuff. Like I said, this is just part of it, part of what's included. Otherwise, we'd be here all day talking about it. This is another one on house and building portraits. So this is a line and wash version. So you can see it's a bit more detailed. You can see the colors and the grass and also the line work. Spend a bit more time drawing these ones as well. So line and wash is great. And I think, this is one of my most purchased courses actually. This the house and building portraits. People like to maybe do one of their own house. Some more here. What else do we have? It just keeps going on. Let me just skip through. I think I've gone overboard with all these photos, but you get the idea. These are all included. Everything that you see here is included in this program. There's a huge amount of value in there. Okay, something for everyone. And you don't have to start at the beginning as well. You can pick it up right from the middle if you want, if you see a particular project that you like. Every course is standalone. If you're new as well, here are some of my instructor ratings. So I teach on a variety of different platforms. Now, the platform that I've listed in the video description for this 70 course program, it's a special program that I host directly. So that gives you the best value. But I teach on different platforms, and my courses sell there consistently every month. I think I get on some months over 100 students enroll. So these are my ratings, ratings of recent rating from Facebook that I got. So based on 27 ratings, 5-star rating as an instructor on one of my platforms that I work with, an external platform. I get consistently high reviews, so 4.5 stars out of 5. Here are some other student reviews as well. Here's some other student testimonials that I get. This is from Philip on YouTube, one of my students, and also other ones here. So yeah, based on Watercolor essential sub content. So this 70 course program. So let's go through what you get. So if you sign up today, there's a few bonuses. You're going to receive this first bonus, so receiving tailored feedback. So really important because this allows you to save time and improve faster. Sometimes when you're practicing, like I was saying in the beginning, you may be practicing, but you're not practicing in the right direction. You might be practicing the wrong thing or the same technique. You're just using that technique in the wrong way. You may be picking up paint the wrong way. Too much paint or something like that. So I'll be able to pick that up and give you a bit of feedback. So you can send me through your paintings through email or through Messenger, and I'll give you a bit of feedback. And this allows you to progress faster and think more as an experienced watercolorist. I think that's a great value in itself. The second bonus is that you do get access to a variety of our groups. So we have a private group, which allows you to get some priority support. Most of my students message me directly. I think they just feel more comfortable that way. But we do also have a public watercolor mentor community with thousands of other students. I think there's about 6,000 members in there at the moment. I'm thinking of making that one private soon, but a lot of people, a lot of people get value out of it. So that's why I've kept it public for the time being. Finding inspiration and motivation to paint. Now, this is a big one. When you're painting by yourself, it's very difficult to sort of get yourself going at times, But if you've got a few other people who are doing the same project, who are kind of egging you on as well, I think that's really helps to give you some inspiration to paint. Those groups are a great value. You also get, as I said, the third bonus, access to our previous live workshops. So there's 100 of them, 100 plus of them, 1 to 2 different paintings per workshops. In fact, there's a couple of them that I've done 3 or 4 different projects. So they'll keep you busy for a really long time. You also get exclusive links to references and tracing stencils, so you don't have to draw like we did today. So yeah, getting down to the cost. So this includes, like I said, 70 courses. You get 2 months of student support. You can contact me, get some feedback on your paintings, private group access, 100 plus workshop replays. Normally sell this for $497. Remembering that there's a whole lot of courses in there, and each of them on my other platforms that I work with, external platforms, can sell up to $30 to $40 a course. So if you enroll today, you can sign up for $297 just through the link in the video description. And if you have questions, if you want to know what that link is, if you want me to send you that link, let me know as well. It is in the description anyway. Or if you have questions about this program, do let me know. I think Pamela and Jenny are one of my students. They're here in the chats as well. Jenny's been emailing me recently, a lot of her work, and it's really good to see how consistent you've been, Jenny. So type enroll in the chats if you're interested. You can enroll again through that link here. And I'll just flip back to the main screen now. And what I'll do as well, maybe I'll show you a little preview of what it looks like when you're inside. But yeah, if you have any questions for today as well, just let me know in the comments and I will get back to you. I think today's workshop was much more simplified. I tend to run these pretty quickly. And so this is when you actually enroll in the Essentials program. This is what you get. I'll just move my head over to the bottom right hand corner. But as you can see, you've got a bit of an introduction here. Gives you some step-by-step details. And on the left-hand side are all of the 70 courses. So let's say, let's see. I mean, that's when I talk about tone and values made simple. Atmospheric watercolors. Let's say I want to just have a look at this particular course. Let's see what's in here. And I'm streaming at the same time, so my internet's probably running a bit slow. You can go there. There's another scene here. Australian bush landscapes. This is like a 12 Apostles scene as well. Okay, we've got some of them that just have multiple projects in there, like this one here. Lighthouse scene. What is this? Actually, can't remember which scene this one is. This is the line and wash. I think I know it's this one. Showed it before. So you go through all different projects that you can do. What's this one here? Coastal scenes. I think this is another lighthouse scene as well in there. So some of the sub courses contain multiple projects and some of them just contain a couple. Most of them contain multiple projects, and so you can see how I build up the detail. And on the right hand side here, check this out, you can go and reduce the speed down to 0.5 speed if it's too quick. You can rewind it as well. yeah, go through in with a lot of detail how to paint everything, all these particular scenes. This one is Barmouth, scene of Barmouth. Have a look in the UK. Wait for that to load. There we go. There, I'll go through the drawing, to help you draw this particular scene because some of them are a little bit tricky. Um, you know, out with the old hairdryer again, using gouache, and that's a nice one I quite like. We've even got, like I said, uh, other sort of bonus workshops at the end, but portraiture workshops as well down at the base. So yeah, there's things in here. Really, there's things in here for everyone, but just a little sneak peek, I suppose, just to show you what is included. What is this one? Bush landscape. This is Australian watercolor landscapes again, like quite a popular one. Quite a popular one that a bunch of students have enrolled in. That look at that. That's only taken about, how long did that take to paint? Maybe half an hour. Maybe half an hour from start to finish. I mean, not including the drawing, of course, but yeah, 35 minutes. So yeah, it's good to also challenge yourself to try to keep up with me times because that will help you to focus on the big picture rather than get bogged down in all the details all the time. So I'm gonna have a quick look at the chats. Let's see, guys, if there's any questions or any comments. Jeannie says, beautiful. Thanks, Jeannie. And Christine says, love how you teach. Thank you. Thank you, Christine. Thank you all coming along. And yeah, do me a big favor. If you're still watching, click the like button on the video. And if you get a chance, share it with a friend or share it with a watercolor group that you're part of. It helps me a great deal to get the video out to more people. So thank you, Christine, for coming along. And Jenny, good to see you today. How did your painting turn out? Did you have any other questions, or did you struggle with anything today? And are you happy with any with your painting? Let me know. That's too many questions. Tammy says it's lovely and thank you so much for this demo. Much appreciated. Thanks, Tammy. Thank you for coming along. Any kind of feedback is great as well. I'd love to hear, what you guys, what you guys think of today's workshop. It was, like I said, it's pretty quick and pretty loose. Yvonne says nice painting. Thanks, Yvonne. Good to see you. Who else? Robin, thanks for sharing your time and knowledge. Thank you, Robin. And got first time here. So this is Gabby, first time here. Really beautiful. The details, everything. Thank you, Gabby. We've got Elizabeth. First, think the gate looked like a white wall with the vines growing. I think the black has made it look like a gate. Yeah, probably should have spent a bit more time on that gate, but yeah, rushed through parts of it for today. But I think you guys get the general picture with the 3 layers. The first layer with all the light colors, blending in some mid values, and then adding in some final finishing touches in darks and lights in that final layer. I think the colors for the shirt areas in your photo, people help them look more like humans. Yeah, just putting in a touch of, saving some of that, really vibrant color for the end helps. I've started to paint a bit more in more duller colors these days. I used to just use really, really vibrant colors, but now I've learnt the value of just using more subdued colors. That way I can preserve the really vibrant colors right to the end to draw attention to some parts of my scene. Monica says, beautiful art was always. Thank you, as always. Thank you so much. Thank you, Monica, for coming along, and some great questions today as well from you, Monica. And Pamela says, I love doing this course and this is Pamela talking about the 70 course program that I sort of went through the presentation before. I love doing this course and I did improve greatly from what I used to do. I finished this course and it is worth doing. Erin is a wonderful teacher. Thanks, Pamela. And yeah, it's always a pleasure to see you in these in these workshops. I'm planning to run more of these. I've been just tied up with a few other projects lately, so but I always make a commitment to do one of these workshops per month at least. So great to see you coming along, and I'm happy that you've gotten so much value out of it. Yeah, and if you ever need any help, just touch base with me. You've got my details, Pamela. And yeah, always good to see you post in the group as well. Bon Bye says thank you very much, Darren. Thank you. And thank you for coming along. And Margaret says this is a fantastic, fabulous tutorial. Thanks so much, Darren. I'll put my finished painting when I feel good about it. Put it up anyway. I want to have a look at it, Margaret. Good to see you today. Abby says beautiful colors. Thank you. All right. Are there any more questions? Otherwise, I'll probably end this one. Guys, it's been a couple of hours. Been pretty quiet here on Facebook, but if you have any questions on Facebook, do leave a comment later, and I will get back to you. Marion, yeah, I haven't seen you. I haven't chatted to you for a bit because probably haven't done one of these lives since last month. But Marion says, "Thank you, Darren. Really enjoyed today, but I think I shouldn't have painted mine so large." You know, there's always something that you could have that you regret, isn't there? But you know, at least you got the benefit of painting larger, because it's also a skill to be able to paint larger. When you paint larger, you have to put in more details, and I mean, it just takes more time. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I paint smaller in these workshops, so I can get things done quickly. Monica's asking, what size paper? Let's have a look. I think I mentioned this before, but in centimeters, 28 centimeters by 19 centimeters, or for Americans out there, we've got 11 inches by 7.5, I think. Yeah, 7.5. So, yeah, I think this is probably the smallest that I paint, because I like putting through some broad brushstrokes and getting in those, yeah, just having that nice sort of feeling of actually bit of freedom through those brushstrokes. Otherwise, I'm just sort of hunched over and I'm painting too small, and for some people that works great, but it frustrates me when I have to paint too small. So, yeah. Alrighty, I might go and finish this one off now. But again, if you are interested in the program, the link is in the chat and also in the video description. You can ask me questions about it later, about the course, the program, or you can ask me about today's workshop if you have any questions, and I'll get back to you. But thank you all for coming along today, and I will see you all for the next one.